Jonathan Schmidt, dude, you have got some awesome hits on the TWU Traffic Jams Spotify list.
Guess I could have shouted out your name, but even if it was you, I don't know what I would say. We can sit and reminisce about the old school, maybe share a cigarette because we both fools. Chop it up and compare perspectives. Life, love, stress, and setbacks. Yes, you can tell me how hard you had it.
Seriously, Schmidt happens, and it happens on the TWU Traffic Jams Spotify playlist. That song yesterday by Atmosphere, come on. If that doesn't get you just tapping the steering wheel while you're rolling out, going to another fare, or coming out of a fare, I mean, I don't know what does, right? You need some more caffeine, you need a pulse, you need a defib thing on your chest and shocking you alive, because that song is just good. That's just good jams. If you haven't checked us out, the TWU Traffic Jams, please text a teammate, text me, I'll send you the link. It's totally worth making sure that you listen to it, because it's just good driving music for sure. It's just fun to work out to, all that stuff. So check it out. Ginger Flow, Mason Geddes has some good jams on there too. So check out, see what your teammates are posting. It's a lot of fun. TWU Traffic Jams on Spotify. Okay, today is for October the 9th, a week of October 9th. It's a short week for us. We got a lot happening. We still got a ton of fairs for our folks. We got people traveling all over the country of Canada and even the U.S. this week. So I'm glad everybody's safe, keeping it done. Make sure your P-card statements are getting ready to be due. Make sure you give time to put all that stuff in there. Don't have any issues with the P-card. The first thing I want to do is just a little bit of anecdotal information. Oh, by the way, all these talking points either on my board behind me, or I will be emailing the broad, at least the big bullet points in an email to you along with the video link once that gets posted. I hope to get that posted here in about the next 30 minutes. Like I said, anecdotal information for those of you doing NACAP fairs this year. If you've had the opportunity to pick up a guidebook, the guide, I guess now as they're saying it, to Christian colleges and universities, it is some really great intel for us. One, it does spotlight Trinity Western first and foremost. We pay for placement in here, so page 185. Some nice little talking points here. If I have a critique, not all these talking points line up with our U.S. Talking points that we give to counselors. So, not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It just looks like they're not the same. The good news is the numbers are lower here than they are. Like in attendance, it says 3,000. I think it says 4,000 on our U.S. documents. So it looks like we've just grown since the last time we put this out. The tuition is close, although I do think it's a little bit off from here in U.S. dollars. But it's a nice talking piece to share with your families at a fair if you have one, or if you're at a NACAP fair. And then also in the very front, in the alumni spotlight, you will see our own, very own, where is he at? William Sikma. He's like right there. He's like that guy right there. A quick little bio, a nice little web link to our page, the alumni page, and more on his bio is available too. So if you have students, particularly this will appeal more to our U.S. counselors, but we do have some that are in a NACAP fair, I believe in Liz's territory up in Ontario. If you do have students that are looking at other schools, it's a great source document for you to understand a little bit about some of the schools they're looking at. Maybe when you're calling a U.S. student or calling one of these students that are impacted by these fairs in your market, and they mention McGill, or they mention Liberty, or they mention Biola, and you don't know a lot about them, it's a good way for you to get some background information. What are those schools offering? What are their entry points? What's their tuitions? Tuition rate for you to get in. This is some good stuff for you to understand who your competitors are, what's driving some of the interest of your students. So if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't been to NACAP fair, you probably don't have one of these, but for those that have at the NACAP fairs, grab a copy. Like I said, it's great intel. Make sure you do that this year. So, okay, things that we're going to cover today. One, we're going to do a quick data overview of where we're at currently in our database and our progress towards goals. We're going to talk briefly about some action points with that, then walking that right into our preview weekend RSVPs. a little bit of our Salesforce dashboard, something for you to follow along with. Then we're going to talk about individual benchmarks, and then some upcoming information. We do have a concert tour, and then this weekend's celebration event. I believe Scott Fehrenbacher is sending out an email about that as well. And then a quick update on staff shirts. So I hope to keep this really tight, inside 30 minutes. So here we go for October the 9th. Okay, first thing, I want to start with the data overview. Like I said, we've been very busy, a lot of fair activity. The good news is we are definitely up on inquiries, as much as 15%. This day last year, in comparison to last year, we are 15% over where we were at on inquiries, which is great news. It doesn't appear, and that's on the Canadian and the U.S. side, the Canadian side looking just as strong. So it doesn't appear to be any Supreme Court blowback, at least initially. So that's good. I haven't heard anything really negative come from the field from any of our Canadian counselors. So if you do hear something or you've got concerns or questions, please make sure hit us up on Slack, things that you're observing or something like that, or questions. You guys have been really good about that at this point. So it's looking favorable on the inquiry side. However, the subsequent numbers you see there are all in red. The first one is 5.5. These are all percentage points, 3.6%, 17%, and a woeful 44%. That is the other buckets in between. So that is app started all the way, again, to admit. We're down significantly, so nearly 50% when it comes to, and I don't even like rounding up, but I'm going to because it's so egregious at 44% on the admit side. We've got to start making sure that you're taking time out, and I know you're busy, and sometimes when you get home, you've done that fair, you've done like 3 fairs in a row, and it's just about decompression. And you need to have some decompression time, but you also need to be putting time to call your students. We need to get those apps started. We need to get the apps, we need to get the transcripts in, get everything submitted, get these students moving forward. And I understand that on the Canadian side, there's been a little bit of, well, hold on, what about grade 11s? We'll talk about that at a later date, but we've already kind of made that clear for preview. We will take grade 11 scores. Other than that, we're waiting for the marks for grade 12. So, but you still have students that can actually get information into you. They can still get their apps started. They can still get things, they can still RSVP for preview, and then we work on their grade 11 marks. We've got students that need to be contacted, and when we're up 15% over last year but are down in the subsequent categories in the funnel, that's definitely something to be concerned about. One of the things that you want to think about is that you, in terms of benchmarks, and we'll get to benchmarks in a little bit, you want to think about benchmarks like golf. I don't know who plays golf here, but you always want to hit as close as you can to the hole. Right? And if you're hitting from the green and you've got a long fairway, and in the sense, our metaphor, we're hitting from the tee box right now. We're hitting from the tee box, and it's a 720-yard drive to the hole. Every time we hit, we want to hit as close as we can, our best shot forward, so we don't have to hit as far on the next shot. And ultimately, we want to hit into the cup. And so you want to get as close to your benchmarks every single month over month. That way you're not in deficit, because you have to recover what you're behind in the month previous going into the next month. So let's just say, for instance, on October 1st, we came up 5% short on our total app started. If we came up 5% short, but we hit our projected goal for November, we're still behind, because we're behind on the 5%. So you got to do 105% to catch up, and that's just taxing. So it's really important that you guys think about, hey, I've got to take time this week to move some of these students through. The benefit of the telecommute model is that it does put you in the field more. It does allow you to reach out to your students at different times that are more advantageous to them, rather than being bound to a traditional campus clock. You have to be intentional with this time. I'm going to be starting auditing your schedules. your calendars this week. You've all started sharing your calendars with me, which is great. I need to start seeing admin or office time, and not just 30 minutes, not just an hour, but sometimes you need to block out 3 or 4 hours to be calling your students. It's the time of the season where we have to play as close to as maximizing out our benchmarks as possible. We last year, of our total 706 students, get this, of those 706, 198 students were registered out of the pool of students that we registered up to this day. So 198 students of our 706 we found last year by this date. And if we're already 44% behind, let's just say that those were all 100% enrolled out of that 198. That's half that pool we've already lost them. And so it's really important that you guys think about, hey, I've got to utilize my time, maximize as many students as I can through the funnel as best as possible at this time of year. There are students in the pool. These are students that you're going to enroll. In fact, the statistics are showing us early on that last year's students, of that 198, they were better than a 3.5 GPA on the US side and a better than an 82 on the Canadian side in overall marks. So these are high-tier students that were making their decisions early because they want to enjoy their last year of high school. They wanted to get these things out of the way. But we were smart and we engaged them and moved them through. Now, not all of them enrolled, obviously, in October. That doesn't happen. But it's through our early engagement, we moved them through the funnel to a point where we can continue a routine involvement and get them to deposit, get them to schedule, get them to get paid, and finally enroll here at the university. 198 students by October the 9th last year ultimately enrolled. So it's really important that you continue to work your database. Take time out to do that. And I know we have an automation, and I know that we have Pardot emailing, and you can mass text until your fingers get numb. Look, you made connections with students in the field. Look through the names in the database and say, oh yeah, Fiona Higgins, I remember her. Call Fiona. Call her. Don't text her, don't email her, call her. Leave a voicemail. Say, hey man, Fiona, I had a great conversation with you about a professional writing program. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you the app link. I need you to get that started. Let's get that rolling here. It's going to be a simple process. You know how this works. You've got to be intentional about working these students through. We're in deficit. We're in red. That's not a good thing. This is bears in the winter. We've got to eat. This is our eating time as we get ready to go into winter so we can live off the fat stores or whatever metaphor you want to use. Bottom line picture is contact your students moving through the funnel. Golf, bears, how many metaphors is Matt going to use? I don't know. I got several. None of them will make sense unless you actually do this component. So please, ring-a-ding-ding your students. Okay? Yes? Paul, are you paying attention, Paul? Okay, now you're paying attention, Paul. Thank you. Megan, stop multitasking and listen. Call your students. Okay, all right. I just wanted to call you out. Just to point out some people, maybe. I don't know. Okay, next thing. Preview RSVPs. As discussed in training, many of you know this already. You can actually look at all the preview RSVPs on a campaigns view. Click campaigns, you'll see the preview weekend dates, October, November up there. We do have several students. Look for students, not ticket type. Look for students. I believe it'll just be your students who populate. I'm not for sure how that works, if it's set up just to populate just for you or not. You can change that view so you can see certain things, but please check that list. Gold standard is a 90% show rate for our RSVPs. Good news is, we don't have a ton of students this time. I'm not really for sure why that is. Our attendance numbers seem to be a little bit lower at this point than last year. At least that's what I'm getting. It is a little bit of a concern, but really, as long as they show, I don't really care how many. If we have 100 or 200 or 50, as long as they show and that these are the right fit students for us. So when you're calling your students, it's a great time to invite them to preview, but it's also a great time to double check that RSVP list before you make the call and say, you can knock out 2 things with one call. Hey, don't forget to get your app started, or hey, don't forget to get me your transcript. By the way, I see you RSVP'd, or hey, let's get you in here to get you to visit campus on our next preview coming out. So please focus on your preview students, preview weekend students. 90% is the gold standard individually and for the team. Okay, that's for fall 19 students. Next thing is a Salesforce dashboard. I have built a really simple dashboard that is top of the funnel. So inquiry all the way through admit. There is a UG Canadian dashboard and a UG US dashboard. Please check those out. I'm going to send the link in the email to each one of those dashboards. Please subscribe to them and follow them. You will see that there's those little dashboard dial needle things. I reset that every month. That is the total number. So the totals in the green are the goals that we have to hit for the month to stay on target. So please see that as a team overall. Hey, how are we performing? What do we need to do? If you'll scroll down on that dashboard a little bit, you'll see that there will be individual breakouts. Again, this whole dashboard basically uses one report to break out the information. Over on the right is a total funnel picture. It's primarily blue because it's almost all inquiries right now, but there are some smaller bits of the funnel that are starting to populate as we get students who start and submit and are admitted and so forth. So I will send the links to those dashboards. That is for the UG and UG Canada and US transfers to Jaleesa and Suzanne. Right now, you guys are not in this pipeline. I include you guys in on this video content primarily so you can get the updates, what's happening. We are working on a dashboard for you as well, but your leads populate a little differently and they're in different buckets. So stay tuned on that, Jaleesa and Suzanne. Okay, next thing, been using the word benchmark. Benchmarks is a big word that we'll be using a lot. Starting possibly tomorrow, we're going to have a benchmark document for each one of you. That's going to detail your goal. At the very top of the document, it's going to say, here's your goal for the year. And it'll tell you your goal is not, that is your enrolled target number that you need to hit. And inside and then just below that document will be benchmarks. How many students in each one of those buckets from inquiry all the way to enrolled, based on the time of year, month to month, how many students total you need to have in each one of those buckets. So initially, the only buckets that we're really worried about is the inquiry for the first couple of months, but then apps submitted, apps complete, admit, and so forth builds out. You'll see it on the document. Why are we doing this? This is to better help you plan out how your day needs to be structured. So, okay, I called my inquiries. I've got these, and so, but my inquiries are looking good for the month. I've called all these students, but my apps started aren't moving into apps submitted, and I need to get 15 more apps submitted this month. It allows you to begin to structure how I break out my call times or my office time at home to make sure that you're hitting each one of those buckets respectively. All those things are based on conversion either in territory or your conversion in that territory. So historical, so maybe for Liesel, example, or Mason, your numbers are based on historical conversions, or in Jonathan, yours would be historical based off the last couple of years with Rachel in the territory. So whereas Josh, yours is a lot more about your conversion that territory year over year, same with Chris Wong and so forth. So it is that you'll see how those benchmarks, and that's your goal each month in each one of those buckets. And so again, this will help you. Okay, I'm looking really good on the inquiry side. My app's complete, look good, but I still need admits to hit my admit targets for the month. Here's what I need to do. I need to call these students because I know I can get the transcripts. Or maybe I call this school and they can send the transcripts in, whatever. But it's to allow you to kind of structure your day. And this will be kind of an ongoing conversation with us. This is a new model for us to roll out with the team. but it's a good way to hold each one of us accountable to the overall goal, which that plays into the dashboard. The dashboard will give you an overall perspective how the Canadian group or how the US group is performing, but it'll also allow you to say, here's what my contribution to that overall number is. And so individual benchmarks is coming out. We also have some telecommute guidelines that are going to be along with that. Another thing that will be unique with this document, the benchmark document, is that you're actually going to sign acknowledging your goal for the year. So this is something that's definitely a little bit of a shift for the admissions department, but it's pretty standard across the industry that counselors are asked to acknowledge their goal and they're held accountable to it. They say, yes, this is what I'm accountable to. It's a great time for us to have a conversation. We're reviewing it. What do these numbers mean? Even to ask, hey, what happens if I fall short on these things, but I'm looking long in these things? It's for us to work through that, and also be something as a point of visitation or a revisiting in our one-on-ones. Hey, where are you at on your benchmarks? We also have some on that document. There will be some support goals. Support goals being like how many a percentage of our students that apply for leadership scholarship. Your overall preview weekend attendance show rate is going to be as another one. So you'll see some support goals on there. Those things, if we can continue to hit those targets, those will support our monthly benchmarks through the funnel as well. Again, those are going to probably start tomorrow. This is a new thing for the university, and so we had to walk through it through Scott's office and through HR to make sure that we were compliant and these things all worked inside the Canadian guidelines and in the US guidelines of employment. So more to come on that, but be prepared for that, the individual benchmarks document and conversations in their one-on-ones. Okay, a little bit of breaking news. The US group is aware of this, but I just want to say we were out of the concert business, but at the last minute, Scott found a way for us to get back into the concert business. We're doing a very short tour, starting in San Diego and ending in just outside of Seattle at the end of the month, end of October through the first week in November. It's Hillsong. So Megan, Carrie, Paul, and Mason. Mason's going to be our primary stage pitch person. He's going to work that tour, doing that whole Jinja flow thing, and helping us, just continue to increase our brand on the West Coast. It's a good tour for us. Hillsong fits a very unique profile of student that we believe we connect really well with. It's a good values-based tour for us to be a part of, and it's just good brand exposure and running through the first week in November, which a lot of high-tier U.S. students are anticipating to get their applications in by then. So we might snag some really high-quality candidates out of that as well. So it's good news that we are doing a very limited tour. We are looking at one right now for Canada that would go from, it's with a band called Leland. Many of you know it. Know the band Leland. They have the number 5 Christian song in Canada right now, worship song. So check them out if you haven't heard them. That one will start in Hamilton and work its way all the way to Alberta. And it'll be about a 10 or 15 day tour through the middle of November. So more to come on that. That's not inked out yet. We're just exploring that relationship with the concert organizers now, but Scott feels very positive that we can probably do that as well. So that's the concert tour. The next thing is we have an external relations celebration. Maybe if you weren't at the last external relations meeting with Scott, this has been, maybe you have heard this, but this has been a banner year all the way around. Our development team, our fundraising team has exceeded their capital campaign goals crushingly for the new building. I think they had a 5-year plan to be at $22 million. They hit $20 million in a year, which is crazy, in addition to exceeding their goals on their yearly giving as well. So it is impressive. And they've basically done that with missing one staff member. So it's been a great year for them. As many of you already know, they're getting a fantastic team member in Carrie, who starts with them at the end of the month. So it's just an ongoing celebration and a revamping for that team as they continue to build on their successes. Also, we've got a fully staffed marketing team now, and they've put out some great content. A little bit of a hiccup with with some typos. All that to say, though, they've got a full staff right now, and I think that we're starting to benefit from their creative drive and their direction and vision for the university. So that will equally be celebrated as well. But I think the icing on the cake is your work, the work that each one of you have done to help contribute to our 706 number, which is over goal, which makes us look great. And I think that Scott is just absolutely, that's why he wants to have a party. And there ain't no party like a Scott Fehrenbacher party. So I don't have no idea what the actual details of the week of the night are, but I do know these limited details. You please be on campus by 6 p.m. I believe it's over in Reimer. Scott's sending out some details here in a little bit. If you haven't got it, you probably will already by the time you see this. Be on campus at 6 p.m. It's for you and your spouse. It is a semi-formal to formal event. So dress up. You deserve it. Feel good. Rent a tux. Do something. I don't care. But we want you to enjoy the night. Scott's gonna roll out his finest for us. He loves to put on a party, so I'm sure it'll do well. Be here at 6. It's a mixer from 6 to 6:30. Food starts at 6:30. And the detail, I think it's till 9. Check your calendar on that as well. But again, you and your spouse are certainly welcome to come, and we want to have a good showing for that. So please make sure, just plan on being here. Plan on being here. All right. Last thing, staff shirts. What the heck? Okay, so good news is shirts are done. Bad news is that they're still they're being delivered. I don't know where did they come from Scotland? They're not here. I've seen some prototypes of them. The guys, it's a basic white shirt with a blue Trinity torch. I feel like I could have stitched like 20 of those, hand knitted them all. Is it knitting? Is it stitching? I don't know what it is. I could have done torches a lot quicker than these shirts getting here. We have a white shirt for the guys and a blue shirt for guys. We do have a blue shirt for the females. However, that's probably been the one area where we've had a little bit of a hiccup with the shirts. The quality of the material was a little thin. It just wasn't great. So the female shirts might be on hold. Some of you are happy with that. Some of you are like, I just want to work. So hey, as long as you're going out in the field fully dressed, I'm all for it. But we will have staff shirts. We'll start with 2, and then there will be a spring edition of shirts as well. I've started working on the spring edition now because, like I said, they could be getting hand stitched in Scotland right now, and then they will be shipped on a camel to a port in Belgium. And then from that port, they will be put on the slowest boat possible, taken down the Atlantic coast, around the Straits of Hormuz in South America. Is it Hormuz? I think it is. And then make their way up the Chilean coast all the way. They will stop in Panama, have a margarita, and then by the time they get actually to the port of Vancouver, clear customs 3 times because that's just what they do. I'm anticipating that we'll have a spring set of shirts by June. So that's to be excited for. So, hey, I'm working on it. That's where we're at, June. But we will have some shirts for fall, at least for the guys, probably within the next week. That's what I've been told from our HR, or not HR, from our, what are the guys over there? Marketing. That's right. Okay, so that's the overview. That's our highlights. Call your students. That's all I really got. Call your students. Let's get them through the funnel. All right. Anybody got any good jokes? Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, 2 guys, right? One's a rabbi. One's a priest. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's really good. That's actually a really good joke. Good dad joke. Good dad joke. I was impressed. Yep. And some of you are checking your audio right now. Did I miss something? Did I hear something? No, I just filled it in. You can insert the punchline and funny stuff around that joke and my laughter. So, okay. All right. I'll see you guys on Slack. I'll see you guys on campus. See you guys where I see you. In the meantime, how about we finish a little jam time?
You can show me all the scars to back.
This is such a good jam. All right. Love you guys. Check you guys soon.